Oh, this is Debbie, and this is Light Up Your Worth. I am so excited to bring you today's guest. You're going to be just as excited as I am once you meet Carey Adams. She is a physical therapist and strength and nutrition coach with almost 20 years of experience, specializing helping women over 40. She created the Fitter, Leaner, Stronger Over 40 program designed to guide women through their unique challenges of midlife, including weight gain and changing hormones. Carey's experience lies in empowering women to build strength, improving their metabolism, and develop a healthier relationship with their bodies through effective training and nutrition strategies. Welcome, Carey.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I am so excited to really talk through the fitness and the weight training and our nutrition and how it all comes together. There's so much information out there.
There's so much information. It's overwhelming, and it's the Wild West
Yes.
is how I refer to the internet, fitness and health information. It's coming from everywhere. I'm thankful for the internet for things like this, but it's also made us confused and overwhelmed. I work with overwhelmed and confused women every day.
Our whole diet, physical body, how we should look. I've been active most of my life where I'll have periods of time where I'm more sedentary, but I've been an athlete. And yet over the years, that has become more and more challenging with weight. You try this and you try that and you try this, which I know has got to be playing even more havoc. I hear about women over 40, especially over 50, fasting, keto, Whole30. You don't even know what to eat. You know what you're not supposed to eat most of the time. But of course, you're exhausted. And so it's this cycle. You might do well for a couple weeks, a couple months, but you're not making anything that's sustainable. And so I know when I was younger, I used to do a lot of weightlifting, and somehow I've gotten away from that. But I know intuitively that muscle mass does play a part in my metabolism. And so I really was excited with your background and listening to your podcast, The Fitter, Leaner, Stronger Over 40, really insightful podcast. And so I heard that and I wanted to have you join me.
It showcases the confusion that women are feeling, right? And a lot of times it does begin with, I'm starting to gain some weight, my body's changing. I haven't changed anything. I don't understand, and nothing I'm doing is working. And then we get the messaging on the internet. And like you said, I know what foods not to eat. Women are great at restricting, but we've never been taught how to eat. And even before that, I should say that I think in midlife, I find it really helps when we understand what's happening with our body. What are the changes? Because perimenopause, after 35, our hormones are beginning to change. We are hitting perimenopause. It can be a 10-year period as our hormones are shifting, as our body is preparing to leave our reproductive years. It's a normal phase we all go through, but it's a significant change that we're going through as we head towards menopause, which just means we're no longer having a period. We're no longer able to make babies, but there's significant hormone changes that affect more than just our reproductive system. We have receptor cells to those crucial hormones everywhere in our body. And so when people are telling us to cut and to fast and to do this and do that, they're telling us all these things without keeping in mind the fact that you're a perimenopausal woman with hormone changes, nor do they know anything about your unique and personal health, fitness, nutrition, emotional, mental health history. We need to take all of that into account. When you talked about muscle and how important it is in strength training, that's one of the keys. Like when we understand what the change is, and I always tell people, I try to keep things simple. We could get complicated, but I don't think that helps anybody. I always tell women that the big changes that are happening in midlife is, number one, we're losing muscle unless we're training and eating to build it. And that's what slows down our metabolism, because we don't have the muscle. Muscle is active tissue. And as hormones change, they're just set up so that we're losing it. And if we're not training to eat, if we're not training and eating to build it, metabolism is slowing down. What used to work isn't going to work because we don't have the muscle tissue. We become more insulin resistant. Usually, because the hormones are changing, we're more at risk of becoming insulin resistant, but also because we're losing the muscle. Muscle is what is a tissue that's metabolically active, and it keeps our muscles responsive to insulin. And so those two factors combined is what leads to that insulin resistance, right? We tend to be less active. I'm working 2 jobs, sitting a lot, we're losing muscle, slowing metabolism, more at risk of insulin sensitivity, less tolerant to stress and inflammation. Our bodies don't handle the fasting diet and then the binging, the all in of the workouts and then all out, trying something for a week and falling off track. That is stressful on our body. I teach a lot about these pillars inside my program, but there's a whole pillar on inflammation. Skipping meals is inflammatory. Restricting in the morning and overeating at night is inflammatory. Restricting all week and then overeating all weekend is inflammatory on our body. It's stressful. Our body sees all of this as stress. And in midlife, doesn't tolerate that stress. We could do that in our 20s. Fine. Now I can't drink wine, run a marathon next day. I can't even run the next morning after I do that. So you guys already are noticing this ability, like your body's ability, it's just not tolerating the stress and kind of the things that we used to do to it, right? And that's because our hormones are changing. We're also less sensitive to carbohydrates in midlife because we're losing muscle. That doesn't mean no carbs. I know that's what people hear, but we're less sensitive to carbs. But carbs, we still need carbs. Our thyroid needs carbs. Our muscles need carbs if we're training hard. We need carbs. Our brain needs carbs to function. And so it's not that we have to cut out all carbs, but we've got to be carb smart, right? We've got to be carb smart in midlife. Those are the big changes. We're losing muscle. We're more at risk of insulin resistance, not tolerating stress the way we used to, and we're not as tolerant to carbs. And so those things guide how we adapt our habits and our approach in midlife so that we're working with our body and not against it. And like we talked about all the diet cultures and everyone telling us all these things, is often telling us things that are working against our hormones even more. But we become like it's so hard in midlife because that body starts changing and that weight starts creeping up and health diagnoses start kicking in and we can panic. And then we're acting out of fear instead of learning and then adapting strategically and intentionally. And I always teach my clients that we want to be educated. We want to educate ourselves. We want to understand our body. And then we want to strategically and intentionally learn to train, eat, and create habits that support our hormones. We're not working against them.
I want to go back to the muscle loss. Now, is it like when you hit 40, 50, or 60, is there a percentage or a number that we are now losing faster? Because it just seems to be so rapid.
It's different for everybody. They say between 1 and 8% per decade after the age of 35, but it's different. And it depends on how much muscle you came into this perimenopause period with. It depends on your exercise habits. It depends on your nutrition, activity. There's a lot of it depends. But yes, it can decline really quickly. And a lot of people find that. And it definitely declines quicker after 60. If you're not eating to support that muscle, and if you're not training to support that muscle, you're going to lose it faster.
So then I'm curious about, how do you eat to support muscle mass or grow muscles? If you're listening, including myself, where would you start? What foods help promote muscle growth?
I simplify this: 3 balanced meals a day, snacks in between if you're hungry, always trying to pair protein. Every meal should have a protein focus. And then we pair that with some fats and carbs. So balanced meals throughout the day. That gives you protein right when you wake up, because protein is what your muscles are going to use to maintain themselves. And if we dose that regularly throughout the day, then we're always like giving our muscles some protein. So we're still losing them, but we're going to slow it down by doing that. So protein forward, 3 meals a day, snacks if you're hungry. Balances your blood sugars. In midlife, we're also more sensitive to blood sugar dysregulation.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's going to balance our blood sugars, keep us full longer, reduce cravings, maintain energy. And by feeding ourselves with enough food in the right balance at the right time, those 3 meals with snacks if you're hungry, you actually have better energy for your brain. A lot of my clients tell me their anxiety goes away, their brains function better, they have more energy, their cravings go away, and they sleep better. And those are the things that we want to happen first before we can ever worry about weight loss. Like these, because these are all symptoms that your body is dysregulated and just out of balance.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got to bring that harmony back to your body. And again, we need to bring that stability back, that safety back to your body. And so that's one way. And there's research studies that say if you're just hitting your protein, I always say, I don't like to use numbers. People say 30 to 50 grams in each meal. A lot of women can get really stressed out by that number, and we can get really fussy and create fear and perfectionism. I work with women with eating disorders, so I'm careful with that. I always think, do I have protein on my plate? That's a skill to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Do I have protein on my plate? So that's what I work with my clients with. Do I have protein on my plate? I like to teach nutrition. It is very simple. They say, Carey, it's not simple. I always remember this one client at the end of our session, 16 weeks together. She's, I remember when I wanted to strangle you when you said nutrition was simple. It did not feel simple. She's, now it's so easy. I know. And she's like, I feel so much better. I know. So that's how you can do it with nutrition. Then throw the training in, training to build muscle. Strength training is the only way to build muscle. Activity is great. Cardio is great. But it's not going to build muscle. It doesn't provide the stimulus you need to build muscle through strength training, lifting weights.
Can I ask you about protein? I think there's confusion about proteins. I know shakes are really popular. Like I drink in the morning a pea protein shake, a vegetable shake, and add all different things in it. Spinach, blueberries, turmeric, flaxseed. It's full of good stuff. And I just feel good knowing that I'm drinking that, and then I'll have something else. But when I think of proteins in the morning, I'm thinking of eggs. You get stuck on what options do we have for proteins. And I think that's why it seems so complicated. We're so used to some of the standards of what do you eat if you're a busy professional and you need a protein in the middle of the day.
This is a skill to practice and to get comfortable and confident in. And there's a million recipes on the internet. You go to ChatGPT and say, give me 20, 40-gram protein breakfast ideas without eggs. There's so many. I teach my clients to pause. I've got tons of recipe guides, but you just have to pause. And I think that some of that is subconscious as we start to panic about the recipes, about what can I eat? And then your subconscious brain starts to get away with you into overwhelm. And as if we actually pause, go, wait a minute. Okay, I need some protein at breakfast. If I just Googled 30-gram protein breakfast ideas into the internet, it will give you all kinds of things. Oh, that's pretty easy. I like that one, right? It's really pretty easy when you pause, but our brains love, especially when it's something that you're struggling with. A lot of women are really struggling with food, body weight, and health and all the things. And so when these are new skills to learn, because again, diet culture teaches you guys to not eat, skip breakfast, just cut, restrict everything. And so we get our brain, it's very uncomfortable for our brain to learn how to nourish our body. And so what I teach my clients is that this is a skill to practice. I talk a lot about autopilot brain. It's simple.
Just Google
it's really not that hard.
Yeah.
And ChatGPT is great. 40-gram protein macro balanced breakfast. Give me 20 examples. I don't teach clients to restrict. I tell them the only foods you don't want to eat are the foods that you're allergic, you're sensitive, and you just don't like. Don't eat those foods. But other than that, like everything's good to go. Figure out how to eat it, how to make it work to support your body and allow some enjoyment in your life, because food is more than nourishment. Simplify it that way. Find what you like.
The importance of strength training. When I was younger, I was an athlete, even way back in the 80s, and we did strength training. And I played volleyball, and that was part of it. And we ran, and
Mhm.
I played some other sports, but that was the main sport. And so we lifted weights like 3, 4 days a week for
Mhm.
strength.
Yeah.
And I know there's still the misconception of I don't want to become the Hulk. And I know that if I do it right, I'm not going to
Yeah.
become the Hulk. But where does somebody start if they've never done it? I know that there's science behind how you do it. It used to
Mhm.
be, which probably doesn't work because none of the stuff I used to do works. Okay, it's a leg day, it's upper body day. Where do you begin with?
Yeah. The first thing I'll say is that it's really common for women to be worried about strength training and getting bulky, but we don't have the hormone profiles that are going to really allow that to happen to us. You would have to train obsessively to your max and nail your nutrition absolutely 100% perfect for you to build that kind of muscle to look like a bodybuilder. And you'd have to do it for years and years on end. And that's not going to happen. And I have this funny meme that says, not strength training because you think you're going to get bulky is like not cooking a meal because you think you're going to turn into a chef. Like it's not going to happen. But we do need to understand that building muscle is your ticket to increasing your metabolism and setting your body up to burn fat effortlessly.
Mhm.
We can't spot reduce, but we can improve our metabolic health, which is going to improve our insulin resistance, reduce our risks of diabetes and cardiovascular, not cardiovascular, but yes, cardiovascular, but I'm talking more metabolic diabetes kind of stuff. That insulin resistance kind of stuff. We need that muscle. We want to keep our metabolic health in good condition, and we need muscle for that. I teach strength and conditioning because they're both important. Again, the internet loves extremes. Strength training is good. Don't do any cardio. Cardio is good. Don't do any strength training. Vegetables are good. Don't eat meat. Meat is good. Don't eat carbs. The internet loves extremes, polarizing stuff. It's sensational, but we
Mhm.
need balance. So we need strength training to build a muscle, but we need cardiovascular exercise as well for our cardiovascular health, for our heart and lungs. Strength training, it's the only way to build muscle and boost metabolism. It has to be combined with good nutrition as well, but we already talked about that. We'll talk about strength now.
Mhm.
So where do you get started? It depends where you're starting from. That's really important. I'm a physical therapist at heart. So the research says you have to lift to failure. If you're new to strength training, if you've never lifted a weight, if you don't have base strength, if you haven't done it for a long time, if you don't have the confidence and you're nervous to pick up weights, start small. Maybe it was body weight. That's where an assessment comes in, and your understanding that yes, there's science, that's wonderful. Go to fatigue to build muscle, but we got to build to get there. We got to meet ourselves where we're at. We got to understand strength training and how to do it and why to do it. And we got to meet ourselves where we're at and then progressively overload from there. So I work with clients in 5-week training blocks. We have a little assessment, see where you're at. I help choose a program that's going to meet you where you're at, you uniquely where you're at in a way that you're going to be able to do it, right? I'm not going to give you a 5-day-a-week program that has your splitting and you're at the gym and using all this equipment. You haven't strength trained before and you don't have the confidence there and you don't have the time right now. Let's get you on a two or 3 day program using the equipment that you have, using the space that you have. Let's build your confidence, base strength, your neuromuscular connections for 4 weeks. Then we deload, is what I call it. We
Mhm.
rest, we recover, we review the 4 weeks past. And then we choose a new plan. Do we need a new plan? What do we need next? How can we push a little harder? Get closer to failure. But the truth is, if you haven't been strength training, as soon as you start, you're gonna get benefits more than someone's elite and progressing a bit. It's harder for those guys to get results, but at the beginning, that's where we want to be. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Yeah.
it does make sense because so many programs are, you don't hear about an assessment. You don't hear about,
No,
no, I can't jump that fast because I'm afraid of where I get
yeah,
so sore that I
that's right.
can't function the
And
next
you
day.
don't want that.
And
Yeah.
we've all done that. We've all pushed our bodies too far thinking, oh, I can do this. And then you can't do it the next day or the next day.
Mhm.
It might take you 4 days to recover,
Yeah.
and you may not pick them back up.
You don't get good positive feedback from that. We want to set you up with a sustainable program where you feel good. If you can't recover for 4 days, pull the weight back a bit. That's too much. I don't want you sore for 4 days. A sign of getting fitter, of getting stronger, is you recover faster. And so I would rather you guys pick something that you're going to do and feel good about, and you're going to learn about, and you're going to tune into your body, versus I'm just going to push as hard as I can and then not be able to do it. Because again, remember, we're not as sensitive to stress and inflammation. We can't tolerate it. So we need more recovery time. We can't just push hard. We're going to hurt more, and that's not going to help us, because it's creating more stress and inflammation, which raises that cortisol level and dysregulates us. So we want to meet ourselves where we are. That's such a big piece of how I personally coach women through this, because I want you guys consistent forever, because we have to set you up with consistency, habits and strategies and mindsets so you can stay consistent forever, because we're getting older every day. We're not going to like get strong and then stop because we've achieved it. No, if we want to, I know unapologetically, I want to be fit, lean, strong, and healthy for life. I used to work in geriatric care in the hospital, and I saw the implications of falls and fractures and weakness and frailty. And I know that if I build muscle and I take care of myself, that doesn't necessarily have to be my story. I know the power of muscle, and I have to keep doing it forever. And if I want to be strong at 80, that's on me to train and eat and take care of myself to be strong. Yes, there's genetics, and yes, there's a lot of things in there. Life's never going to go as planned, right? There's always going to be things that come that you have no control of. But these are the things I can be in control of. And so I want to set you guys up with some of these attitudes, but also with this ability to sustain. And that's why I love the 5-week training blocks, because we go for 4 weeks. Maybe your goal is 2 workouts a week, upper and lower body. Is that what the research says is most effective? No. But we're human. We're all unique humans. We're not researched in a lab looking at one variable, right? We're humans with unique stories, bodies, hormones, stresses, and traumas. We need to meet you where you're at and have you do that. And I love the 4 weeks, because for people who struggle with consistency and exercise, we're going to push you 2 workouts a week just for 4 weeks, then break. People like that, just 2 workouts and a break. And people really love that, because then they take the break and then they're like, oh, I'm ready to go again. I miss my workouts. I'm like, I know. So it keeps up motivation. So for life, we're not looking at you start exercising and you're going to just go forever. I love working out, but I need breaks. I don't just want to do this forever. And so like 5-week training blocks, 4 weeks on, 1 week break. 4 weeks on, 1 week break. You can take more, and we're flexible within that, but that's generally the cadence we keep. It helps people who struggle with exercise to stay. And then there's always an opportunity to start again, not waiting till January, not doing all these things, but it's okay. Let's just start again. And then for the people who work out, I work with people who struggle to work out, and then I work with people who work out way too much and they need to learn how to slow down and rest so that they can recover, because they're more like, we're not tolerating that kind of intensity in midlife anymore. We need to rest and recover. We need more rest and recovery. So this helps them. It gives them permission to rest. It gives them permission to slow down. It gives them permission to take a break, which no one's ever given a lot of women. And so both sides of the struggle bus can come together in these 5-week training blocks, which is what I love. Again.
Yeah. I really like that approach, because I know at this point in life, we have a lot of traumas that have been stored in our body. They
And
get
stacked
triggered,
upon each other.
right?
Yeah.
And then they all like bust through
Yeah.
with all the changes that are happening, or you hear about, oh, I don't want to trigger my cortisol. I'm afraid to get it right, or not, like what you mentioned about not being consistent, I think has been 2 days a week. It's like retraining your neural pathways,
Totally.
creating a new habit. You don't want it to be overwhelming.
We want to keep you out of overwhelm. That's the most important thing when starting this habit for people who have struggled with it. Yeah. That's why even nutrition, right? Everyone teaches count every macro and do all this stuff and track it in this app. I'm already struggling with food. That's making it more of a struggle. Take it back to basics. Do I have protein on my plate? Am I eating 3 meals a day? We want consistency. You don't have to be perfect. Just know what to do and do pretty good most of the time. Meet your body where it's at. And yes, all those traumas, women specifically, we have a lot, and most of us have kids and full-time jobs. So you're always pushing it down in midlife. We don't have that tolerance to stress. Our coping strategies aren't as good anymore. So
Mhm.
it pops up even more. We need self-compassion and realistic expectations on ourselves
Mhm.
and meeting ourselves where we're at. It's really important in midlife more than ever. And the reality is, our health is declining if we're not taking care of it. But that doesn't mean
Mhm.
we've got to get it perfect. It means we've got to understand, set realistic goals for ourselves,
Mhm.
meet ourselves where we're at consciously, um, knowing what to do and why we want to do it. Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
It does
Yeah.
make sense because my podcast is really highlighting a lot of spiritual modalities, is how it started out in 2021.
Mhm.
And this season is about incorporating more of the other parts of our bodies, understanding that my audience is generally over 40, right? And going
Mhm.
through these other things in life. And
Mhm.
though my work with others is working with their subconscious and releasing stuff that's stored in our bodies, whether we're conscious of them or not conscious of them, all of those thoughts, the 90,000 thoughts that we have a day, and there's 60 to 70,000 thoughts that we have a day, and 95% of them are subconscious.
Totally drives everything.
And it drives the bus. It's
Drives
driving the bus,
everything.
whether people want it or not. What are those old, really limiting beliefs or programming beliefs that you have seen with people, because I know that you're working with them also with their mindset, changing neural pathways. What are some beliefs you're addressing when people hear them in their own minds now? They go, "Oh,
Mhm.
I didn't even know what's a limiting belief," right?
Mhm.
We might know, but not all the listeners know necessarily what that is. What are some of the thoughts that your women, your clients are saying to themselves as they
So
jump into doing strength training or change their nutrition?
I'm going to get bulky. I don't like exercise. I don't like strength training. Exercise, they feel it more than they say it, but they feel it as punishment. They see exercise as this ticket to changing their body shape and size. And when it doesn't work, they quit. So again, it's subconscious, it's feelings, it's thoughts, it's almost energetics in their body. Those are big ones. Nutrition is, it's hard. Nutrition is confusing. I have no control over food. It's my genetics.
Mm,
Um, I have to track every bite. Getting my nutrition on track means I need to restrict and cut everything. I need to cut carbs. Those are the ones that just come off the top of my head. A lot of women are using exercise and food as a way to change their body shape and size, forgetting it's a way, and they don't use it as a way to take really good care of this one body they have. And so that belief of exercise and food is how I shrink my body. It guides everything that you do or don't do. Beliefs shape our emotions, actions. And if we're having these beliefs subconsciously, that's driving our action and inaction. Food is hard. You're going to get overwhelmed and not do anything. I want to get my nutrition on track. I better join a restrictive diet, cut carbs, start fasting. None of those are what you need. They're limiting beliefs holding you back. Deeper is low confidence with nutrition and food because women have failed so many times in the past. A lot of it goes back to childhood.
mhm.
Was parents commented on bodies. Moms went to Weight Watchers and sent their kids to weigh-ins. They always thought that they were going to struggle with food and weight. Struggle is always there. I always tell my clients that what you need to eat and how you train is simple. It's why aren't we doing it? Why do we get stuck? Why are we falling off track?
Mm,
That's where so much work needs to be done when it comes to taking care of our bodies
mhm.
in midlife specifically, because it all just bubbles up to the surface in midlife.
It
Yeah.
really does. It really does. And you know what I have found really interesting, and you hear a lot of it, is this whole self-care thing, right? It's, yeah, it's nice to go get mani-pedis and
Mm-hmm.
facials and get your
Nice.
hair
Yeah.
cut. We all love that stuff,
Mhm.
most of us, right? But
Mhm.
it's so much more than that. When
Mhm.
yesterday I was running late, I start my morning off with a I do fresh celery every day to help my liver. And then I make my protein shake that I've a pea protein with spinach and turmeric and flaxseed and wild blueberries for all new different nutritional things. And then I'll have some other protein once I feel like I'm a little bit hungrier. And so I was running a little late because I'm waiting 15 minutes to eat each of them so that they can be absorbed into my body. And I'm drinking water. And so the first thing I thought of was, I just don't have time today to make the shake.
Oh, mhm.
And I had to go, no, this is exactly why you need to do this. You are not going to show up as
Mhm.
your best self through the day. And it's going to come out later in my day where I'm going to want something that's laying around our house. So there are things that I don't necessarily want in my body that are in the house. And they're just much more tempting
Mhm.
if I don't take that. This whole self-care movement is great in some ways, but it's not necessarily addressing the true care. Yeah, it's getting your blood work. It's eating
Yeah.
right for your body. It's
Mhm.
getting your mammograms. It's getting in that weight training.
Yeah. And
Hmm.
that's how I see, again, that's where I see people struggling with workouts and nutrition is they're thinking of them solely as a way to lose weight
Hmm.
versus a way to take really good care of the one body that they have. I don't struggle with this stuff for a lot of reasons, and I've studied this because I've been trying to help women for 2 decades and I see them get stuck and I'm like, why are they finding this so hard? Why are they finding this so hard? So I've studied, taken courses, and reverse engineered it. I don't struggle with workouts and nutrition because I do them to take care of my one body I have, partly because I've seen the effects as when I worked in the hospital. That changed me. That was so eye-opening for me. The frailty in the human body that we have and the regrets of people when they're really sick later in life. And so I view taking really good care of my body, not as selfish, not as something extra that I have to do, but as my self-care, but not only my self-care for my physical body. At the core of it is also, I always tell my clients that I have a fitter, leaner, stronger habit checklist. I'm like, just follow these habits on the daily. You guys do the best you can. This is how you're going to get fit, lean, and strong over time. But the thing is that those habits of nourishing your body and getting your workout in and drinking your water and getting to bed on time, those are also emotional and nervous system regulating. I deal with a lot of trauma and chaos daily, and I don't fall off track. And that's not because I'm obsessed with my weight or because I'm obsessed with looking a certain way. I need to take good care of my mental and emotional health and my nervous system. So I do those habits every day because they keep my head grounded. They keep my emotions grounded. They keep my nervous system grounded. As a side effect, they keep my cortisol. I've trained my cortisol to push and pull. I can handle training. I can handle runs. I can handle life stress like nobody that I know. I have a lot. People don't know my story on the backside, but I can do that. And the result of doing that over the long term of 20 years of living this way is that I'm fit, lean, strong, and healthy, easy. It doesn't take much to maintain it. It's very simple for me because this is my autopilot. But it's not because I want to look a certain way or lose weight. It's because of sort of those subconscious programs of why. This is complicated, but I hope that made sense. And I just know
Yes.
that a lot of people struggle because they're trying to use these modalities to lose weight, and that's just not enough. It's not enough of a motivator to keep you
Hmm.
going.
Yes. Yes. That was really beneficial of how that whole mind, body, spirit all really comes together with something very practical.
Yes, and that's self-care, right? Self-care is taking care
Yes.
of my nervous system, which I'm sure you've
Hmm.
talked about in your podcast, taking care of my emotional health,
Hmm.
taking care of my physical health, nourishing my body, training my body, because that also trains your mind. Exercise done with intention and mindfulness versus just changing your body is very different. It's a very different way to approach exercise. I bring mindfulness into training. Once you understanding, connecting your brain with your breath and movement, pushing, and then recovering. I want you to train. That's training your nervous system, right? It's training your muscles. That's how you build muscle. But it also trains your nervous system to push and handle that push because you're practicing to recover. The way I program and teach in my program really addresses all of this because I understand the emotional side of this so well. I understand trauma, the nervous system dysregulation. We're dealing with traumas in the background for most people because if we weren't, we would just be doing it and it would be fine, right? We wouldn't be where we are. And so we have to bring it all together.
Thank you, Carey, for that. It's just so powerful. And knowing when somebody can look at you like you're extremely fit, you got beautiful arms, you're not the big Hulk, you're very physically fit, healthy, and radiant. Your beauty just shines through. And that's from realizing that it is just one body. I know we have a tendency to focus, especially in the spiritual community, on our emotions and all this healing that we're doing. And somehow we miss it with the nutrition and the movement that you're talking about. And specifically the strength training, how it just needs to be incorporated into our lives and just become like we're drinking water now and
again,
putting that all together.
Is a tool to take care of the one body you have. And I teach a whole module on body image and how I really focus. I help people focus on body neutrality, focusing on what your body does for you. My body is how I experience the world. It's just existing to take care of me. Look how I'm treating it. This is my one body. What can she do? How can I support her?
The expression health is wealth. If you've been a caretaker for parents or children or a spouse, you get to this point in your midlife and you have dreams inside of you. And to do that, you need the healthy body to be able to do that. So this conversation is just so timely. And what's something, Carey, that you really want to leave if you had one last like takeaway? What would you want the listeners to take away from our discussion today?
Honestly, it comes down to you only have one body and she deserves to be taken care of. And that doesn't mean restricting and cutting and punishing yourself with exercise. It means learning about your physical body and how to really take care of her through these hormonal changes and life changes and emotional changes.
I appreciate that.
I'm like the weirdest fitness physical therapist. I found exercise simple. The psychology part fascinating. My approach is just so different. That the exercise part is so simple. How to build muscle. You got strength train. It's like, why are we struggling to do it?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to switch gears. And there's two questions that I like to ask all of my guests. And one of them is that I'm a huge believer in the power of music, how it can really shift our mood, put us in a different headspace, get us moving. And so I want to know what your song is that you would put.
I'm actually not really a music person, which is so funny. But when I'm struggling, I turn to Free Falling. And what's that Joni Mitchell song, Fast Car? They make me feel free, young, and alive. And I have a lot of possibility ahead of me.
In this season of your life, with everything you've experienced and have learned, if you had to go back now and talk to your younger self about your own worth, what would you tell her?
This is going to make me cry. You've got this. Yep. You've got this.
Oh,
Yep, that's it.
it's amazing what we know now with the seasons, what they teach us about ourselves.
One of the things people on the internet, you don't know their stories. It looks easy for them. Simple. They must have support I don't have. We don't know the story behind anybody. So we've all got to realize we can do this. We just need to learn the skills, have self-worth and confidence to, that's where the lack is, right?
Mhm.
These are skills to be learned, and we all need to, we have the capacity inside us to learn these skills, and they'll benefit you forever in every area of your life.
Mhm.
Mhm.
It is. It's so true. I believe that I'm an advocate for women to really own their self-worth and
Find that self-worth and believe
step
that
into it.
self-worth.
It really does show. We show up different.
Yeah.
We show up on
Yeah.
how we walk in a room. And this isn't saying that people are cocky or overconfident. This is knowing that you are worthy of everything, how we lift each other up. You're this expert with the strength training and the nutrition, and I may not be an expert in that, but I am really good at people stepping into and seeing some of their own limiting beliefs and really igniting their own self-discovery.
That's so powerful. Nothing changes without self-discovery and awareness, because you don't know
Mhm.
what you need to work on. We have to
Yeah.
have this awareness without judgment. I'm sure you, I know you teach that
Mhm.
awareness without judgment, with curiosity, and then working from there.
Mhm.
Sounds
Yeah.
like we talk about a lot of the same things, but like in
We we
a
do,
different
right?
area.
Because when it gets down to it, everybody
Mhm.
has this underlying, or so many, not shouldn't say everybody,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
so many of us, especially women, have struggled with this. And then you find that,
Mhm.
and then you're trying to now, how do you help? You see how it has impacted your choices and the patterns that we all have
Mhm.
different patterns that we're overcoming and
Mhm.
generational traumas, and then our own life traumas, whether they're the small T's or the big T's, but lots of
Mhm.
small T's add up to a big T. There's so much there. We're here to have this beautiful experience in our one body. We need to lift each other up, to step into our gifts, like you've stepped into your gifts of helping others, because you're like, this hasn't been difficult for me, but now you're helping others see, simplifying something.
And I deeply believe that when women get strong on the outside, they get strong on the inside. That's why I keep doing this, because
Mhm.
we need strong women who can handle life.
We need each other. We need communities of women supporting each other.
We're supposed to be in tribes.
Mhm.
Most of what we're fighting is modern culture.
That's some of the things I'm trying to change with the podcast. I've expanded the discussions more because we are multifaceted women. We
Mhm.
don't just focus on one part of our life. We are juggling all of it. And so
Mhm.
let's bring in all of the different parts
Mhm.
to help us, knowing it's all based upon the spiritual connection. Everything leads back to worth in our conscious, subconscious, no matter what subject we're talking about.
And I'm like, why? I always study this stuff. I find it fascinating. Why do we have such low self-worth? Do you think that comes from childhood? Where's that from?
I believe it's multi-answer. We inherit, and they have a lot of so much science around it, but that we inherit this from generationals back. And if you just think back, I've been doing research in my own lineage of women. I think I'm at level 4 back from me. And I think
Mhm.
about what was going on in the world when they were born, and we carry forth just like we do our eye color, our DNA, but our
Mhm.
cells are changed
Mhm.
with major traumas or whatever their perception was at that time. The having enough food, how many people went through famines, or there wasn't, where whole families living off a loaf of bread for a week. All the wars that we've had, all of the women who've experienced horrible, so much rape was not considered a big deal 100 years ago. It was just what happened. And we couldn't vote. We didn't even have, until 1974, we couldn't even open up a bank account in the US or have a credit card in our name. I was a young girl, 7 or 8, when that was happening. And I believe that we inherited all of that in our DNA, and that, and then we pick up things before age 7, whether we can talk or not talk. And there's lots of science around that too, as far as what if you're in a crib and there's something on the TV about a mass murder or something, you're picking up emotions in your environment with parents or caregivers. We absorb that. And so that I think is inherently because we were not treated very well. And all of those traumas all play into that worth, you know?
And I guess it's multifaceted too, because sometimes women can feel worthy and capable in some areas, but not in other areas, you know?
Yes.
So that's also
I
interesting,
I
a big
see
piece in
that
that too.
frequently. I see that
Mhm.
frequently. And one of the areas I see it a lot in is with money,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
you know,
yep.
lots of
Because
money consciousness beliefs that are blocked.
yeah,
And look at
beliefs.
all those myths. The myth
Yeah,
of, oh, women can't handle money. We just want to go shop.
fascinating. So I
Really
think
is.
the brain and personal development, it's crucial to know ourselves well, because we
Mhm.
can't make changes if we don't really know ourselves so well. It's powerful work. Love it.
Thank you for being
Yeah.
here, Carey. And then I
Yeah.
also wanted you to share, how could listeners find you?
I have a podcast that I recently started, and it's called Fitter, Leaner, Stronger Over 40 Podcast. I have a free guide called How to Build a Fitter, Leaner, Stronger Body. Find me, Carey Adam, on Facebook.
Thank you for being here. I've just
Yeah.
so enjoyed our conversation, and there's so
Thanks.
much wisdom that you have shared with myself and the audience. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.